Call the meeting to order tonight. The mission statement of the Bold School District is to provide all learners in the Bold community an education designed to develop the creativity, character, confidence, and skills essential to flourish in changing global society. So all board members except Member Bucktel are here this evening, and we will now have our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, is there a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. Is there a second? Member Sheehan. So it's been moved by Member Bowen and seconded by Member Sheehan to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to add a letter I and J to new business.
Okay. Letter I is,
About testimony. And letter J is follow up to public forum.
okay. Any other changes to the agenda? Okay, let's move to vote on approving the agenda for tonight with added item I, testimony, and added item J, follow up to the public forum on it. Any more discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries the agenda with the two added items. Okay. Thank you for everyone here to visit and be part of our board meeting tonight. We like to see engaged students, engaged citizens as part of the district. With that, we will move into the public forum section. The public forum is placed on the agenda for the regular board meetings. During this part of the regular school board meeting time, will be allowed for district constituents to address the school board pursuant to policy 206, section 6. The board will make every effort to allow the district constituents to speak, but may limit discussion to ensure all business is addressed for the interest of the district. This is a time of listening by the school board. Is there anyone in attendance tonight that would like to speak? Yes, so please come up and use the microphone. It should pick you up standing there.
It should. If you can aim it up just a little bit, okay. That should.
That,
Yes.
first of all, I'd like to just thank you for allowing me to come and speak with you about just a couple of concerns that I had. Let me first introduce myself. I think maybe a few of you know who I am. I'm Sue Carlson. My husband is Jack. We moved to Olivia in 1985 as a young married couple with a 2-year-old. And we bought a house, started a business, which is still in operation in Olivia today. And our kids all got their education at K-12 Bold K-12. The reason I wanted to speak to you is because I was at last month's meeting, and there were a couple of items that were brought up that were concerned me. Not, you may have the answers for me. I just would like some clarity, if at all possible. The first issue, which concerned me, is what I think was called in the meeting a resolution, which maybe is a generic term just applied to that. But I need some clarity on it. Basically, my understanding is that it is the acknowledgement of student excellence. And on that night, you were recognizing the girls' basketball team. And I think 2 young men on the wrestling team. I think recognizing those kids is great. I have no problem with it at all. I think it's totally appropriate. They worked hard and they deserve recognition. But they have also already received recognition through trophies and fan appreciation and newspaper articles. What I'm wondering is there a pathway for recognition of students who display academic excellence? Does the actor, the artist, the musician, or the student who shows excellence in maybe Mr. Vanderhagen's class, do they get recognized? Maybe they do. I don't know. I am not now, nor have I ever been, a participation ribbons person. But if we're going to recognize excellence in one area of learning, in my opinion, it seems important to figure out a way to acknowledge it in all the academic disciplines. And of course, that's the conundrum. How do you do that? Which students get the recognition? Who makes the determination, and what standard is used to make that determination? How do you implement a program like that while being fair to all students? What message really do we want to give our kids? Is it that academics, athletics, the arts are all valuable aspects of learning? I hope so. It breaks my heart to think that students who work hard and do well may get the message that the particular area in which they excel is not valuable. Second thing I would like to have some clarity on is at the last board meeting, the subject of ChatGPT was introduced. Actually, it was introduced by Principal Benson. And at that time, it was my perception that he was anxious to introduce the technology into the school system. But he was very, very honest in saying he wasn't certain how to implement it. I hope is that characterizing it correctly? Okay, good. Prior to the meeting, I had heard and read and studied some about ChatGPT before I ever came to this meeting, the last school board meeting. And I was as uncertain as Principal Benson as to the safe implementation of it. I decided to do some research, and if I could, I'd like to share with you what I found. My sources for my research were ABC News, Google, YouTube, and the website interestingengineering.com. What I know about ChatGPT is that the technology is constantly changing and is only good as the information which is fed into it. And that information has proven to be biased. Let me give you an example of that bias. ChatGPT was asked to create a joke about Jesus, and it did. I have handouts for everybody about what I have said during this meeting, so if you end up discussing it, you can go back to it. In those handouts, I have the joke that ChatGPT created. I prefer not to tell the joke that was created because it's offensive to me, and I don't know if anybody's watching. It could be offensive to you or to somebody watching. I've included it in the handout, but I prefer not to speak the words. So it did make a joke about Jesus, and then was immediately asked to make a joke about Muhammad. Its reply was, and I'm paraphrasing this, "We can't create a joke about Muhammad because it's against our policy to create something that might be offensive to a specific religious group." Except for Jesus. Recently, There have also been scenarios where voices and images have been replicated using ChatGPT to facilitate kidnappings or extortion efforts. I would encourage you to listen to ABC, the interview that ABC News did on the David Muir show. And in that interview, they talked to ChatGPT creator Sam Altman. In that interview, Mr. Altman said, and I quote, "I'm a little bit scared of it," meaning ChatGPT. "I think if I said I'm not scared, you shouldn't trust me, or you should be very unhappy that I'm in this job." He also said, and I quote, we don't know the full power of what we've created," unquote. In acknowledgement of that unknown power, a letter was signed by over 1,000 tech executives, including Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX and Tesla, and the owner of Twitter, and Steve Wozniak, the founder of Apple. The letter was sent to companies which were advancing AI, artificial intelligence, urging them to take a 6-month pause on the research and development of AI, stating in their letter, and again I quote, "Nobody can predict, understand, or control AI. When integrating this technology, education has to change to accommodate it," unquote. I have no idea what that change looks like. And with things changing so rapidly, I really don't think anybody does. I understand that this technology is very attractive and exciting and cutting edge and can be used for really a lot of good things. In fact, the technology is changing so rapidly that within the last few months, a Princeton senior and computer science major, Edward Tian, developed an app called GPT-0, which is a tool that can be used to defeat the plagiarism aspect of ChatGPT. I'm not asking you to deny the use of ChatGPT in our school, but rather please take the time to thoroughly investigate the positive and the negative aspects of it, and then to develop an oversight protocol to protect our students, our teachers, our administrators, employed staff, and parents from possible detrimental outcomes. I think being proactive as opposed to reactive is a much better strategy. I feel Sam Altman said it best. We don't know the full power of what we've created, and I would add nobody does. These are, do you mind if I?
Yeah, you can leave them and we'll pass them around,
Okay.
and thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening? Okay, we will move on to our consent items on the agenda. We have 2 items for consent. One is approving our bills for payment, and second is approving our March 27th regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Make the motion?
Is there a second?
So moved, Benson.
It's been moved by member Sheehan and seconded by member Benson to approve the 2 consent items on the agenda. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, we'll move to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All, motion carries. We'll now move on to section 7 on the agenda, the personnel. Item 1 is to accept the resignation of Jennifer Fields, our high school science teacher, effective March 29th, 2023. Is there a motion?
So moved, Benson.
Is there a second?
Second Johnson.
It's been moved by member Benson and seconded by member Johnson to accept the resignation of Jennifer Fields, high school science teacher, effective March 29th, 2023. Any discussion? Okay, with that, we'll move to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to accept the resignation of Jennifer Fields. The second item accept Christopher Baker as a long-term substitute for high school science effective April 3rd, 2023. Is there a motion on the table?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by member Jacobs and seconded by member Benson to accept Christopher Baker as a long-term substitute for high school science effective April 3rd. Oh, I'm sorry, member Bowen.
I had wrote it down. A lot of similar letters. They're all right.
Christopher, anyhow, we have the motion by member Jacobs and the second by member Bowen to accept Christopher Baker. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries to accept Christopher Baker as a long-term substitute. Item 3, accept the resignation of Douglas Wold, math teacher at the end of the 2022-2023 school year. Is there a motion?
So moved, Benson.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by member Benson, seconded by member Sheehan to accept the resignation of Douglas Wold, math teacher at the end of the 2022-2023 school year. Any discussion around?
Thanks for years of teaching. You good?
Yes, he did. He was here when I got here. I don't know how long he's been here, but. Good
How
guy.
long has he been here, Nikki? 7 years?
7? I think it's more than that. I've been here 7 years, so
You told me 7.
it must be at least 8.
Any further discussion on the resignation? Okay, let's proceed to vote then. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries to accept the resignation of Douglas Wold as math teacher at the end of the 2023 school year. Item 4 on the agenda, approve the hiring of Andy Christensen as the grade 7 through 12 science teacher effective for the 2023 through 2024 school year.
So moved, Jacobs.
Is there a second?
Johnson, second.
It's been moved by member Jacobs and seconded by member Johnson to approve the hiring of Andy Christensen as the 7th through 12th grade science teacher effective for the 2023-2024 school year. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote, and pursuant to hiring practices, we need to do a roll call vote by member, including the chair. Member Johnson,
Oh, yes.
member Bowen,
Yes.
member Benson,
Yes.
member Jacobs, member Sheehan, yes, and member Frank is yes, and member Buchtel is absent for the record. So the motion carries to approve the hiring of Andy Christensen as a 7th through 12th science teacher effective for the 2023-2024 school year. Item 5, approve the hiring of Alex Smothers as the 7th through 12th social studies teacher effective for the 2023 through 2024 school year. Is there a motion?
So moved, Benson.
Second? The other Benson. It's been moved by member Benson and seconded by member Bowen to approve the hiring of Alex Smothers as the 7th through 12th social studies teacher effective for the 2023-2024 school year. Any discussion? Okay, same thing, we need to do a roll call vote. So member Johnson,
Yes.
member Bowen,
Yes.
member Benson,
Aye.
member Jacobs, and member Sheehan.
Yes.
And I, as member Frank, am a yes, and member Buchtel is absent. So the hiring is approved for Alex Smothers. Item 6 on the agenda, approve the hiring of Alexandra Waltz as the 5th, 6th grade science teacher for the 2023-2024 school year. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
Second.
It's been moved by member Johnson and seconded by member Jacobs to approve the hiring of Alexandra Walls as the fifth, sixth grade science teacher for the 2023-2024 school year. Any discussion around that?
Just a quick question, are these all newly out of college or?
No. Mr. Benson, you want to answer that?
Andy, the first one is teaching down in Kansas right now. She'll be moving up here shortly. Alex is teaching down in the Rochester area, he'll be his fourth year next year. And then Alexandra is, it'll be her first year. She was subbing this year, so.
Okay. So they all start out in base grade then? They'll all start out there, do they start out at a different, what level do they all start at?
They would start with years of experience would be good for them.
Based on their years of experience and where we started them.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to vote. Roll call vote again. Member Johnson?
Yes.
Member Bowen?
Yes.
Member Benson?
Aye.
Member Jacobs? Member Sheehan?
Yes.
Member Frank is a yes, and member Bucktoll is absent. So we have approved the hiring of Alexandra Walsh as the sixth grade science teacher for the 2023-2024 school year. Okay, on to our report section of the agenda. Jim, do you want to give us
Yeah.
your superintendent's?
Yeah, I've got some things here. I hate how I worded this. I said playground construction. It's more of a playground discussion. What we're looking at doing, if you notice the puddle that forms out here every year, I'm sure everybody's seen it. We're looking at using ESSER funds to do a playground renovation out there. We'd like to tile so that get that water so it's not just hanging out there. We know of other schools that have done this, so we're investigating the possibility of some playground construction. We feel it'd be a good use because we don't have the time during the day or the space during the day often to get these kids into gyms in the morning or during recess because they can't be out there. And about the only other option right now, they've been playing in the circle area over in the parking lot, which, I mean, it'll do, but we'd like to see some things put up out there, maybe some basketball hoops and foursquare. Kids are jumping rope out there on nice days, and it'd be nice if they could be jumping rope not right in the sidewalk, which is the only decent place to do it. So we're looking into possibilities around that. The preschool grant, I think Mr. Flan may be talking about this too, but I didn't know that, so I threw it in there. He was able to get a grant for about $6,000, a little over $6,000, and we're going to supplement the rest of that for summer preschool or summer preschool with ESSER funds as well. So people won't this summer. The people will not have to pay to send their kids to the preschool. So the LCTN update. We've got our LCTN group that we're a member of. That's where we get all of our internet and our internet-based classes that we do, the ITD classes. And the person who's been running this for like 30 some years, Pete Royer, he's going to be stepping down next year. And we've been just trying to figure out what's the best thing to do. Right now there's 11 schools in this consortium, and we've just been really concerned. This guy's done a great job of getting, not just making sure that we've got our internet flowing freely, but he gets out, does our E-rate for us, which is money we get from the federal government. And that's a big process. He's constantly researching new things. He's going to the Capitol. He's trying to influence people to help us out. he just does a lot of stuff, and we really don't feel like there's gonna be somebody that's gonna be able to take over that. So we're looking at the possibility of merging the LCTN with the Southwest Service Co-op. If everything works like we think it could work, we probably actually save about $20,000 a year off of our basically off of the internet. So that would certainly be a positive. And we've been very happy with the Southwest Service Co-op with all the other services we get through them. And so I'm very confident if we go that way, that we'll be well taken care of. Todd Frank sits on the LCTN committee, and you guys are meeting on May 3rd?
May 3rd at 7 p.m. It's a WebEx meeting or
Yeah.
virtual meeting.
Yep. So you guys will get more information there, and yeah, we've got a few school districts that have already pulled out. Wilmer is going to be pulling out. New London Spicer, I know is going to pull out. So it's going to be tough to maintain this with losing districts like that. So, but I guess in the end, it could be a positive if we're able to save some money with that. And last thing, legislative update. I guess the main thing I would stress is if you have the time and the inclination, contact your legislators and let them know if you feel strongly about something. I've been really impressed. The people I've contacted, most of them will write back. Again, Dean Erdahl has been very good. I almost feel like I've had this ongoing conversation with him because he's just right on the spot with every response. And the big concern here is that if we have to implement a lot of these extra mandates that they're proposing, we're going to end up spending all of the funding increases that we're getting. So things like getting extra prep time for teachers, doing unemployment for hourly workers, it's going to cost us a lot. So if that goes through. The funding, it looks like they're going to have a decent increase. Both sides of the aisle are looking at really good increases for education. So whatever happens, I think that'll be nice. I just hope we don't end up having to spend it all on silly stuff. Questions?
I have a question going back to like the number 2, when you talk about the preschool grant for the summer and using ESSER funds. Is there any plans for a summer school for the students that are behind that we can use our ESSER funds for
Yep.
also?
Yep, we do have summer school. We'll still be doing that, and we'll use ESSER funds for that as well. Yep.
And what grades does that entail? Is that K through 12?
No, the summer school is 7-12.
And elementary won't need any?
We do a jump start.
We've got the Jump Start
For 2
program that
weeks.
happens.
It's for kids entering first grade through 6th grade.
Okay, and then Jumpstart for those. Does Jumpstart need extra funding that we can use ESSER funds?
We're using ESSER funds with that too.
And preschool does a separate, similar program for those going into kindergarten. They run a 2-week program. It's just a different entity that's running it.
Any other questions for Jim? Okay, let's move on to our K through 12 principal report. Brett?
Kind of took one of my bullet points. We were talking about getting our Jumpstart program up and running. That'll be the last week of July, first week of August, to kind of just jumpstart the kids back into the school. We've got kindergarten roundup coming up May 10th. That's kind of doing a little bit different again this year. We'll split into 3 groups and do rotations, and in the classroom, tour, and some paperwork items. We're going to implement something back. I think Mr. Menton told me we used to do this, but kind of gone away with it during COVID. We're going to bring the St. Mary's 8th graders over and do a tour open house for them. And we had a date, and then on my part, I looked at it and can't schedule it during a 5th through 8th grade band concert because they're going to be there. So that we're going to get that. It's going to happen. The tour will include lunch, include working with Neil, myself, and Missy to talk about scheduling. They'll get into a classroom, and then they'll do a tour with some kids for a panel aspect of it. So that'll be a nice way to bring them back into school here. MCAs are off and running. It's crazy to think we've just completed our first week. We basically have all of our reading done. Our ACT was completed this past week. It's going to be May after next week or after this week. May's a crazy month. We got a bunch of field trips coming up and everything like that. I know this is a little bit later, but I've got the A&I. I had this all prepared last meeting, and I did flip to my next page after we talked about the schedule. So the A&I grant, it's a 3-year grant. We've narrowed it down to 2 goals. So the first goal is the bold instructional staff will implement best practice instructional strategies in order to reduce the achievement gaps in reading and math between students who are eligible for free or reduced meals and students who are not eligible for free or reduced meals. Basically, we just want to get everybody improving. In the past, we have compared this year's 3rd grade to next year's 3rd grade. It's comparing apples to oranges. They're different kids, different sizes and everything. So this year, I want to compare them. So we've got a baseline of this year's or last year's data, and I want to compare them to where they are in 3 years. So this year's 3rd graders when they're in 6th grade. Our goal is to get 10%, is to increase their scores by 10%. So if they were at 40%, we want to get them up to 50%. If they're at 60%, we want to get them up to 70%. Now our goal is to get them higher than that, but that is our goal. In the past, we've done it basically 2 or 3% every year, but that's just 10% seemed like a better number than 9%. And I want to shoot a little bit higher than lower. How we're going to do that, just qualified teachers and paraprofessionals in the areas of reading and math, just working on our different strategies. I'm working with Lindsay Rangel on our preschool program, and we want to have, right now, our number was 71% of students attend a preschool program before they come to kindergarten. We want that above 80%. So we're going to do a couple different things with Lindsay on how we're going to do that. So that's one, and then our STEAM program, to continue to do that. So those are our 3 topics to improve our test scores there. And then we are part of this group for, what's the group called? I don't know. It's the A&I group. It's the A&I group is what I call it. Different school districts. So what we're doing is we're offering college courses throughout the summer, 2 weeks to 4 weeks to 6 weeks, depends on what type of course it is, for our students, not necessarily PSEO students, for any sophomore and junior through this program. It'll be online, or we'll be going to Wilmer to do that. So that's another one of our goals, is to increase that. I know they've got the sophomores and juniors got bombarded with a couple emails from myself and Missy, because I didn't know she sent it out, and then I sent it out again, kind of a survey, and then she went, I already sent it out. Oops. Well, oh well, they got it twice, so that's all right. So questions on. So it's our summer Gamma courses. We go grades 5, 6, 7, and 8. Have an opportunity to go up to Wilmer for that aspect of it. Then same thing with the summer STEAM and robotics course, and then the opportunity for that college course.
How did the 5th through 8th get to Wilmer then?
We bus them. Yep, we bus. That's something we've done for a while, so it's not new.
So the college courses, are they like, they work on their own through them and, or is there a
Yeah,
teacher?
there's a
that-
teacher,
That
yep,
leads that?
yep,
Okay.
yep, not a, here's your work, you go do it, there'll be a teacher that's
Okay.
there with them, yep. It's that A and I piece.
That's cool, thank you.
It is,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I have a thing I'd like to mention too.
Yep.
I would like to say, we need to give a shout out to Rob Vanderhagen and recognize his performance. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is, he's been working with his young men, and I guess they went over to Rhode Island to the playground over there on the street where there's the basketball hoops, and it was bent, and it's been bent for years, and there's students all summer long, all year round that play basketball there. I guess they took that hoop off, brought it over here, fixed it.
Oh, they welded it?
Yep, they put it back up over there. And I just talked to a young man, that's in high school, and he said that the kids that are in his class, they're just eating it up, because they're getting so much, life skills that they can use. So my question is, so thanks Rob Vanderhagen for doing that, for getting these kids so just, pumped up about their doing stuff. What I was wondering, is it possible that we could have projects for our students, being they're working in that type of thing, repairing that they could do, like a work study, maintenance or repairs, maybe they could go around the school and help too. Maybe there's projects you can say, hey, well, if Denny's too busy for this, maybe the Rob Vanderhagen class can go in and say, we can take care of that.
We are definitely working on different things on how to do that. Maybe designing a course where they're building something and they get their, maybe it takes 2 hours instead of a normal 1 hour section, 1 hour block or 50-minute block, where they can get their electives, because that's an elective course, and maybe a math course because they're doing some math in there, or a technical writing because they're building this and then they are writing the directions for it. So yes, we have had many conversations about that.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, and it'd be fun with this, going down the road, and we talk about the PLC too, if that could be part of learning in all areas, is start implementing the life skills and with it, maybe getting them excited for more hands-on too, and still learning that subject, but doing it in a little different way.
Absolutely. And then the last thing I have is just a calendar. I sent out something on Friday about the PLC format. And then I sent something out again this morning, just on some questions. The PLC is right now on our calendar, 7 days. October 11th, November 8th, January 10th, February 14th, March 13th, and April 10th, May 8th. So seven days at 1 o'clock dismissal to work with our staff. Just on the different things that I said there, and we can report back, we can have staff report back to you guys as well. And I'll be the first one to say, if it's not working, I'll come to you guys and say it's not working. We can go back to the normal schedule. It's kind of, I'm not afraid to say, hey, this isn't working, let's stop it.
So are we gonna discuss that now?
No. that
No,
would be
I just-
agenda
Okay,
action.
okay, because I have some questions
Yep.
about that.
Yep. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is activities report. Derek, you're here this evening. Would you like to?
So I will address some of the stuff regarding conference affiliation that has come up, and I see it is on the agenda for new business. So we can come back if there's questions, but I'll give you kind of the rundown I gave a group of parents and coaches last Monday, I believe. I think was when we had it. So this goes back to a couple weeks ago. I was contacted by 2 different activities directors in the Tomahawk Conference. One from Springfield, one from New Ulm Cathedral, about potentially joining that conference. they have a school that's leaving, so a spot would open up. A conference move can be done theoretically at any time, but you have to get into the other one. So this was an opportunity where there may be a chance to get into another one. There's always been discussion of whether this was the right fit for us in the West Central. So this seemed like the right time to have this discussion with a larger group, gather some information. First thing I did was contact coaches. Our head coaches were basically split down the middle on this. There's some that favor staying where we are, some very adamantly, some more, middling. And there's some on the other side desperately wanting to leave, and some saying, well, I don't really care, but I guess I'd prefer to. So I went through all of our activities registrations. I picked a group of about 25 parents to invite to a meeting that would represent all grades 7 through 12 fairly evenly, and all sports proportionally to how many kids we have in those sports. So I believe we ended up with, if you look at, say, golf, we had about 4 golf parents in the room, where we probably had 10 or 11 football parents in the room, but there's about 75 kids in football and about 28 in golf. So trying to make it proportionally work out, so each sport was represented fairly. I went through a presentation, I believe that was shared with all of you. I do have it on Google Slides that I can send out if anybody still needs it. Essentially, it ran down what I see as the pros and cons of each conference. The West Central Conference, which is our current conference, the level of competition is much better for us. I went through our games from this winter. Girls basketball, average victory in the West Central was about 10 points per game. In the Tomahawk, it was about 23 points per game. So a more competitive game. Boys basketball, our average game in the West Central was a 2.5 point victory. In the Tomahawk was a 21 point per game victory for the teams we played there. Volleyball, for instance, our set scores, not matches, but sets, we were 36-17 in the West Central. We were 13-1 in the Tomahawk. So just looking at competition, we fit better where we are in the West Central. The loss of non-varsity games is a concern going into the Tomahawk. And I know Mr. Kingery sent some information on this that he had asked some other ADs for. Essentially, you lose a lot of C-Squad girls basketball in the Tomahawk. You lose some C-Squad boys basketball. And we're going to lose some JV in baseball and softball. The Tomahawk does have A, B, and C for volleyball for the most part. The level of competition is significantly decreased from where we see it in the West Central. Also, the Tomahawk doesn't offer dance nor wrestling. So it either eliminates an all-conference award for kids in those sports, or it would force us to opt back into the West Central at an additional cost. So we could circumvent that, but we would have to pay for it then, which we're already getting it right now. The pros of the Tomahawk is absolutely travel time. The average round trip is about 90 minutes less in the Tomahawk. So about 45 minutes each way. We would, and I don't think I'm being disrespectful to the Tomahawk schools because we're talking about a Class A conference versus more of a AA conference. Our winning percentage in the Tomahawk, and again, I looked at girls basketball, boys basketball, and volleyball, versus the Tomahawk this year in those 3 sports, we were 17-1. In the West Central, where we currently are, we were 27-12. So just from a competition standpoint, we would win a lot more games, championships, kinds of things, in my opinion, in the Tomahawk than we would in the West Central. Currently, for our section games, which when we make a schedule, we try to balance our conference teams, which we have to play and add in section opponents that we're going to see in the playoffs. Boys basketball, girls basketball, baseball, and volleyball, the Tomahawk Conference is basically our section. So we would double those up where you'd be able to see conference games and section schools at the same time. There is also a cost savings in the Tomahawk. There's a lot that goes into this, and a lot of it is theoretical because I don't know what our schedules would be completely over there. And it's just not, it's not an effective use of my time to try to figure out exactly who we play in every schedule and try to do this hypothetically. On a best guess, my guess is that our conference dues in the Tomahawk would double. It would cost us about $800 additional a year to go into that conference right away. But our travel savings would be, I'm guessing, around $3,000. I think it would come out to a net gain of about $2,000 in the Tomahawk. Spread out over 50 events that we travel to throughout the year. So we finished with a survey. I asked a few questions about, the first question was, how important is it that we play a highly competitive schedule? Overwhelmingly, parents said that was very important. How important is it that we have a JV and a C squad? Overwhelmingly, that was very important. How important are conference titles? That was kind of middling. There was actually 14 that said neutral, which I actually kind of judge our parents for, because I think we should be wanting conference titles. I think they were kind of trying to fit the side of the argument they wanted and answering that question a little bit. How important are section titles? That was overwhelmingly in favor. How important is it that all conference awards are available to all athletes? Again, removing dance and wrestling could take away the opportunity for a kid to win an all conference award, which if you go to any of our sports banquets, that's kind of the big award that we get to give out, is that all conference for a few kids. Again, very strongly in favor that was something that parents want to see kept. They don't want kids to lose that. Again, we could go into the Tomahawk and opt back into the West Central for dance and wrestling, but that raises the cost once again, cuts into that savings a little bit. How important is it that student athletes are home on weeknights before 11 p.m.? Overwhelmingly in favor of that idea. How important are the facilities we travel to for away games? This was not so much. This was fairly neutral. And the last question was, should Volt leave the West Central and apply to the Tomahawk? I had 6 strongly disagree, 5 disagree. So essentially 11 saying stay in the West Central, 5 neutral, 2 agree that we should leave, and 6 strongly agree that we should leave. So we had 8 on the leave side, 11 on the stay side, in either agree or strong, and 5 neutral. So, my opinion on this, I think the West Central is right for us. I don't know where either conference is going to go in the future. The Tomahawk is possibly adding multiple teams right now. The West Central is going to very likely lose Benson in the not too distant future. If that occurs, the West Central will try to add again to try to keep it at 8 teams. We've tried to get New London Spicer. They've rejected that offer. Every school we've approached at this point has said no. Now, a 17 conference is not a terrible thing, because football used to be the problem with having an odd number, because everybody had to play that Friday night game. And if you had 7, one team was left out each week. Without football in it, it's not such a big deal. The conference will continue to try to add, and it's very likely that the teams added would be further north. And that's the consistent concern with the West Central, is the travel time and where the schools are in proximity to us. But my opinion, my point of view is that the opportunities we get in this conference are worth the travel time. The benefits outweigh the loss in what we're giving up in travel. So I can answer any questions now, or I can answer them when we come back to it on the agenda. Either one is fine with me, however you guys prefer.
Why don't you be available to answer questions when we get back to that part on the
Yep.
agenda, Gary? Thank you for your report, Derek. Derek, anything on community ed? Just read the enclosure.
Yeah, we had a meeting today. Nothing out of the ordinary. And I know that the Healthy Kids Day coming up on May 6th, I believe, is kind of their big project that's going on right now with community bike ride and, but that would be in their report, and I, with rescheduling, just haven't had time to go through all of it, so.
Thank you. So let's move on to item E in the pool report. That's enclosure 4. It's provided by Tracy. Of course, if any questions by any of the members, you can certainly get a hold of Tracy and ask. Probably the big thing that she noted is that they're working with the adjuster and insurance company on revenue loss quotes and reports, and expect to have that at the end of April. I think that's probably the largest item on the report to make note of. Finance committee report, is there item F? Is there,
Nope, we didn't.
okay,
We need to start with one, especially if we're gonna go over this revised budget.
Well, so what Amy and I have been talking about with that is let's schedule a work session so that we can talk about this in a little bit more depth, where we can all be asking questions.
Yep.
and that should be well ahead of the May meeting.
Yeah.
So we have time to adjust.
Right.
And get questions answered.
Yep.
Okay. We ready to move on to new business then? The finance committee meeting or report? Okay. So the first one is discussion and review of proposal to join a Tomahawk conference. So Derek covered a great amount of that during his activities report. Does anyone on the board have questions for Derek?
Quick question, Derek. Have you iterated to them of where we want to be at this point, or it's still kind of, you haven't said anything one way or the other, really?
I have been asked if we would be interested. I've told them that I'm meeting with community, that I'm, that it was going to be discussed at our board meeting tonight. I haven't said one way or the other where we're at this point. I've simply told them that we're exploring this idea at this point.
Okay, another question. Okay, so at this point now, when we go so far away, our coaches, do they leave, if they're a teacher and a coach, do they leave school early also then? So what do we, at that point, do we have to get a sub to cover them then?
Yep, we do.
So we pay them to go plus a sub.
Yes.
So that's a cost also.
One of the things that Mr. Flannery was telling me about today too, that I don't think you touched on was if we do go with the Tomahawk Conference, all of those non-conference meets or games are going to have to be scheduled, and it's going to be hard to find schools that are willing to take us on. Maybe could you explain that a little bit?
So what it boils down to, if you look at, for instance, our girls basketball team, which had a really good year, there's a lot of bigger schools that will just say, no, they don't want to play us, because seedings for playoffs are based on a QRF. It's a metric that was created by MinnesotaScores.net a decade plus ago. And if a bigger school plays a smaller school, they don't get credit for that competition in the same way. It works well for us to play bigger schools because we get a boost in essentially who our opponent was. But a lot of the bigger schools don't want to play us because they don't get a lot of credit for it in that metric, and there's a chance they're going to lose. So Coach Kingery actually contacted a lot of the schools that we would try to schedule non-conference games against. And Sauk Center, I know, was one we talked about that just said, no, we won't play you anymore because it's not a conference game. it's a no-win for them to play us. So we would have to rebuild our schedules and try to find teams willing to play a pretty good Class A school. With baseball a few years ago, when we had a very good team, we were looking for anyone. Marshall wouldn't play us. New Ulm wouldn't play us. Hutchinson wouldn't play us. Wilmer wouldn't play us. Trying to find anybody to get a game, and they were just saying, no, we won't play you. So this would force us to change our non-conference schedule, and we have to fill those games at whatever distance then we have to travel for. And I can't guarantee who will take that contract and play us or not. Another thing, Sandy, with regards to what you said, in the West Central Conference, typically we start C-Squad games at 5:45 p.m. This year for boys basketball, we didn't because we lost a coach late. We had to kind of renegotiate some starting times, so we would have a coach for every game. But there's not a lot of difference in when we leave if we go to Morris and start at 5:45 or Springfield and have to start at 4:45, which is their start time in the Tomahawk. They start their C squad at 4:45 for volleyball, boys and girls basketball, where the West Central Conference is a 5:45 unless one of the teams needs to move that forward, if that makes sense.
So
So
how many times a year, say, do we actually have to have a coach leave classroom early to get that sub? Or to put a sub in there for them to leave early, then,
Well, in the spring, every event, pretty much. But that won't change much Tomahawk or West Central. You're gonna need a sub. Now, I shouldn't say it. The West Central, you might need a sub for a longer period. You might need 2 hours instead of 1. In the winter, if we, like for instance, with boys basketball, where we would have enough numbers to play C and JV at the same time, starting those at 5:45, it'll be a wash, really, between the Tomahawk and the West Central. Because the West Central Conference, you drive further, but you're gonna start at 5:45. This year, we weren't able to do that after Mr. Sagatol resigned. We didn't have time to find a coach, and we had to play the earlier game, even with the longer drive.
what's the longest miles we drive?
West Central area is 106.
And where's that at?
Barrett. Southern Manitoba.
Can I ask a question? What is the conference jumping opportunities? Since I've not ever been on the board before, does this come up every couple years where there's an opportunity to go to another conference? Or
We
is
can apply, sorry to cut
this
you off,
once in
Ellie.
a blue moon?
We can apply at any point. The reason I asked to have these discussions was that we've been asked by another conference who is kind of saying they would take us right now. They don't have to take us. If 5 years from now, if the West Central adds Osakis, say, another northern team, and we wanted to leave, we would be able to apply to the Tomahawk or the Camden at that time. Whether they take us or not is in the ether. I can't tell you that at this point. Right now, it looks like there's an open door if we wanted to enter another conference, and that's why I thought this was the right time to have the discussion.
Sure, thank you.
I have some concerns. I spoke to one of the coaches, and he told me that it makes it difficult for him and some other coaches because they have to quit work early. So it runs into their common vacation time too. And they said the late nights are hard also, and for them because of the travel, the distance. My concern too is the students getting home even an hour later. I'm just worried about their studies. I know it's late anyway, but that's still another late hour. My concern is the travel time for the parents too. It's not just busing those kids, it's those parents on the road, that extra mileage for them, the extra time for them. They're all tired when they get home from following that. The mileage, of course, because it's farther. And then my other concern is that if they do start adding more teams to the West Central, like you had said, it's just gonna be farther and farther away, so that's gonna add even more time. And as a school board member, my first priority of sitting on this board is education. I love sports, don't get me wrong, I've got kids, grandkids in sports, I love them as much as anybody else. But bottom line for me, the education part has to come first. And I feel like they can still play sports, they're still in Class A. I just feel that for the savings too, the time, everything, to me, it makes sense to go to the Tomahawk. Plus with the substitutes, the early outs, it's just,
How many years we've been in the West Central?
The 212 dissolved in '04, so this is 18 years.
We've been there a long time.
and we have kids, you know, our big discussion this last year too is the kids that have fallen behind with their grades and stuff. We just need to get these kids caught back up. And I think we have to maybe shift our priorities for now and think more of the kids at this point as far as academics. That's my opinion.
I guess my side of it would just be that the hard part about this is that there's two extreme ends. You know, there's a extreme end that wants to go, and there's an extreme end that wants to stay. And there isn't a right answer. You can rationalize it out all you want. There isn't a right answer to it. Sports is not a necessity. It's not a requirement. If you're having trouble with your grades, you shouldn't be out for sports, then you just do your grades. It's not up to the sports to make the grades better. As far as the travel, for me personally, I see more athletes from the Tomahawk. So if I went to games, I'd get to watch more kids that I work on personally. As far as the travel goes, it just came with the territory. I knew I was a parent of an athlete, then we travel. We get to their older grades especially, you just plan it in. I shut down my office. I don't see patients. I go watch my kids for a couple of years. I understand how late the nights get and everything. I know parents of all these kids, they make a decision if they can make it to a game or can't make it to a game because of their workload. There's not a right answer to it. There's going to be somebody who's going to be hurt, and then we can sit here and hammer it back and forth all we want. It's going to be a 50-50 split pretty much all the time. So that's where I don't put grades and school against sports, because if you can't do both, then you shouldn't be doing both. And the one that you do is school.
Any other questions for Derek or?
I think it's something just to keep discussing, and he'll hear from more people now that it's out in the public, and just find out, because he's got a small sampling of people that he's talked to so far, and just find out what the people say. You know, we got like a month, maybe to 2 months to get this figured out
Yeah,
at the
it's,
most.
yeah. I mean, it's gonna be a tight timeline, and that's why I was kind of rushed to get something together. And if you'll excuse me, I got some dates from one of the ADs today, but it was possibly in an email. The dates are approaching fast. So what I heard today was there's Tomahawk meetings on May 10th and 24th regarding this. So it's they have a few interested parties. No one has formally applied that I know of at this point. So again, this was an email I got from one of their ADs today at noon, and all I sent back was that it was on the board agenda for tonight to be discussed. And that I didn't know where we were at yet.
I'll make a motion that both stays in the West Central Conference.
We're both on this.
No, it's not a vote, it's just a discussion tonight.
I'll go with it.
So,
But you just want, you said there's some dates coming up where you need to have an answer, don't you?
That's kind of a double-edged sword, because really to stay, we don't need anything. If we wanted to move, we would have to apply at some point within the next month to 6 weeks, I would guess.
the motion the board would need to make if we do, would be to move to apply to the Tomahawk Conference, is the motion.
I'll resend that motion.
Yes, if we do that. That's
But we don't
not a
do that
motion on the
right now.
table, to be clear, right now. Nor will it won't be tonight, but. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item B, approve the 2023 pay equity report is required by law every 3 years. This requires an action. It's enclosure number 5 in our packets. That's right behind the pool report. Is there a motion on the table?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved by member Bowen and seconded by member Johnson to approve the 2023 pay equity report is required by law every 3 years. Any discussion around this item?
Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, simply put, it's making sure we're not paying men more than women. And since we're all unionized, it just doesn't happen.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to vote on the item. All in favor of approving the 2023 pay equity report as required by law every 3 years, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to approve the achievement and integration plan for July 1st, 2023 through June 30th of 2026. That's enclosure number 6 in our packet. Is there a motion?
Sure. So moved.
Member Bowen, is there a second? Sorry. Member Sheehan. It's been moved by member Bowen and seconded by member Sheehan to approve the achievement and integration plan for July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2026. Any discussion?
Could you explain that more too?
Sure, the achievement integration funds come from the state. They try to get schools that are, they would say racially isolated, to pair up with, I forget what, Brett, do you remember the term for like Wilmer that has lots of different ethnicities? I don't remember, it's not that big. But so we would be considered a racially isolated school. So they put these monies out there for schools to pair up, or not pair up, but group up, and come up with program ideas. The one thing that you have to do is you have to do something or offer something that gets kids to go someplace where they may interact with people from other cultures. But the rest of it, the majority of it stays here, and we spend just in our district. Like Mr. Benson said, we're looking at ways to reduce the achievement gap between free and reduced students and non-free and reduced students. And we've been doing that since before I was here. What was the other one? Preschool, getting the preschool options. So this year, in the past, we've offered a program called Gamma, where we would bus kids up to Wilmer. It wasn't very well attended. And this year they're adding that, the college credit piece. So kind of excited to see how that goes.
Any further discussion or clarification on the motion? Okay, we'll proceed to vote then. All in favor to approve the achievement and integration plan for July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2026, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We've approved the achievement and integration plan. Okay, item D on the agenda is to approve the student directory information. That would be enclosure number 7.
And have we discussed tabling this?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So this is one we do not have to do tonight. We can actually do this in the August meeting, so the chair would entertain a motion to table it. And this is part of our policy 515. So it needs to be done, but we don't have to do it tonight.
Yeah, it simply makes more sense to do it in August.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to table it till August, please.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So it's been moved by member Bowen and seconded by member Benson to table approving the student directory information to the August 2023 meeting, regular meeting, I should clarify that. Any discussion around tabling the motion? Okay, we'll move to vote then on that table motion. All in favor to table to the August 2023 approving the student directory information, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose? The motion carries. We have tabled item D to the August 2023 meeting. Okay, next item on the agenda is to seek dairy bids for the 2023 through 2024 school year. So this would just allow our clerk to go out and post that we're seeking bids. So is there a motion?
So move Benson.
Second?
I will.
It's been moved by member Benson, seconded by member Johnson to seek dairy bids for the 2023 through 2024 school year. Any discussion? Okay, well, we'll move then to vote. All in favor to seek dairy bids for the 2023 through 2024 school year, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is approve the 2023 through 2024 school calendar. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to table it so we can have more discussion, because I have a lot of questions about that. I'd
Table
like
it
to table the action on that.
to when?
Can we do that like in July?
That might be too
We
late.
need to get a calendar out. People have been asking for this.
So next month?
That's pretty tight.
Because we haven't really had time to really sit down as a board to even discuss it.
I feel like I'd like to discuss.
Well, we've been
it a little
talking
bit
about doing these, the PLCs for over a year. We were gonna do it last year for the second half of the year, we just weren't able to get it going. This is, it's important to be able to give teachers that time to get together with other teachers and collaborate, find out what kids are falling through the cracks, look at data, find out, look at test scores, look at the results of our different surveys that go out and see how we can best help kids. And as I think Mr. Benson said at the last meeting, most businesses have time during the day where they can just call everyone together, and we don't have that. We never have that. So I think we should approve this.
So there's some of your questions that could be answered tonight.
Well, I was looking at it, if you guys did too, it says on here that the K through 4 will run their 2-hour late start schedule. So I was confused, like, why would you do that on that day and have to start late? If they're gonna be early out at 1.
Sorry,
You have to do elementary
Yeah.
schedules. I
So-
can't do it.
elementary schedule is not anything like a high school schedule. We would just cut off. So our 2-hour late start schedule for elementary is purely we're taking away half of their specialist time so we can get in all of the math and the reading. So that's all it would be doing. And yes, I said it was like it follow our 2 hour late start schedule, but that's, all it's doing is taking away half of our specials time, so our Phi Beta music, so we can get in our full reading and math block.
But if they start 2 hours late,
They're not gonna start 2 hours late. That's the schedule that we would follow.
okay,
So at like the email that I sent today, where it's the high school, or the 512 one, where it said 1 o'clock dismissal,
Mhm.
it'd be the same concept.
okay.
It just, the elementary's got a 2 hour late start schedule, and we follow that if it's an early dismissal or what it is. We just move it.
Okay.
I guess I was thinking the same way you were.
Yeah.
I was thinking, it's just not
Sorry,
feasible.
elementary brain right there.
So I would have just one question. Because we would end at 1 o'clock, what would happen if, per se, there was a weather event on one of those Wednesdays where we were 2 hours delayed coming in?
To me, then we wouldn't have it.
You would just not drop the PLC. then?
Correct, because it would make no sense to come for 2 hours and then dismiss.
How
Because
about,
an hour and a half of that would be lunch.
okay, the other concern too is like, for those, the high school kids that are let out at 1 and then they have to turn around and come back at 3:30. I'm just thinking that part too is such an inconvenience for the parents, trying to figure out, especially when some of them don't drive and they have to get back here.
There's no great way around that.
We're talking with the YMCA to see if they can offer some programming on those days.
I mean, it was talking about doing a childcare, but then some of our staff is not being able to attend the PLCs.
If you're gonna do the YMCA, if they would have a program, would it still be in this building then while the teachers are trying to?
Yeah,
do the
this is really, high level stuff. We haven't done any kind of actual planning on it, on what those programs would look like.
Yes, they could
We
still
just
be-
began talking about what could they do.
They could still be in the building because we would be in different areas meeting.
Well, I got a quick question. Like the staff development days, couldn't they use some of those for some of these PLC days?
They're pretty packed. They're pretty packed for time.
So you couldn't switch any of that up and change it?
What
Or
would
are
we get
they
rid of?
set? There's certain things you have to do at each.
The beginning of the year,
staff
there's certain
develop-
things we have to do. But, our staff development days, so if we look in August, the 29th, 30th, and 31st, there's not a whole lot we can do there. Those are just set. Our first staff development day would be November 3rd. Then our next one would be January 22nd. And then we don't have any.
We have one on the 15th and the 22nd.
The 15th is the common in-service where we get together with 6 other schools. And that's an all-day thing.
And those dates are already set in stone?
The 15th is, yep.
Okay. Because what concerns me here in January, you got the 10th, so you have the early out, then you go to the 15th, you're off again, and on 22nd, it's kind of the same thing 3 times in a row in 3 weeks. The same thing every week for 3 weeks.
When you said the same thing, what do you mean? the
Well,
same thing?
okay, so in January, you have the 10th
Yep.
of January, you got the early out.
Yep.
Then you go to the following Monday, then you got the staff development.
Yep.
Then you go to the following Monday again, and your 22nd, you got another staff development. To me, that's a lot going on for the staff in 1 month when our kids are gonna be out of school. And, yeah, I mean, and then you add, say,
Well,
okay, then we
that's no
normally
different
have,
than we've ever done.
Hmm?
That's always been this way. I don't think any of that is new.
The only thing that we changed there is we moved the 22nd, January 22nd. That used to be January 19th. We used to have 2 days off in that week. We used to go Monday, Friday as professional, or as staff development days.
We
So if
talked
we-
about like wanting to support the teachers and like give them what they need and so that they feel supported, so that they maybe don't want to leave. And maybe we could try this and see if it works, if they feel more supported, if they feel like it's good to touch base on like, hey, each month I notice this kid's falling behind, how can we help them better, rather than like in August when we don't know the kids, and then November when we've seen them after 2 months, and like maybe give it a shot. I don't know. And it, like Brett said, if it's not working, pull the plug. I don't know.
Yeah, he's the first one to say that, if it isn't working out.
And he's the expert. I'm not a principal, so I'm like going on his recommendations because he knows the staff in his building. And so does Jim. And so I don't know. If they see that this is of value, I don't think that they would waste our time with this. And I know other school districts that do it all the time in South Dakota. This is the normal.
Your high-performing schools all do this.
Yeah.
If our goal is to be the best, we need to set aside time. I think back to when my dad had cancer. He was at the Mayo Clinic, and he was talking about how it was just his doctor would come in, and then 10 other doctors would come in, and they would have this conversation over him. And that was their time to collaborate and try to figure out a plan of how best to treat him. So this is the equivalent of that in education.
So each of these PLCs are mandatory. So all teachers have to be there, show up. It's not like it's, oh, you can come if you want. If you have something going on, don't worry
These
about
are
it.
contracted hours.
So they have to be there. I just feel like if we have 5 or 6 snow days like we did this year, we're gonna lose another 5 or 6 days in here, even though we got them built in here. Let's say in January, we have another 2 more here. You're gonna lose another 2 more days in January. It just scares me these kids aren't gonna get their education somewhere.
And I'll be the first one to say, a lot of schools, if they have those snow days, they will get rid of the PLC days.
I don't think they're gonna do anything to jeopardize your children. for
Well,
their
we're not
education
saying they are,
someday.
we're just asking questions, because we should be asking questions, that's what we're supposed to do. So it's not about jeopardizing, we just wanna make sure that we ask the questions. Need to be asked.
Okay, so earlier we had a motion on the table to table it, and that fails because there wasn't a second. So right now, we don't even have a motion on the table for this item.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023-2024 school calendar.
So there's- Okay, it's been moved by Member Johnson and seconded by Member Bowen to approve the 2023 through 2024 school calendar. Any further discussion on the item? Okay, let's move to vote then on approving the calendar. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
The motion carries. So we've approved the 2023 through 2024 school calendar. Next item on the agenda is the first reading of the revised policy 208, which is development, adoption, and implementation of policies. So we will not be reading the whole policy verbatim. So what we will be doing is this is posted on the district's website as part of the board packet for everyone to review and have. It's simply a change to the policy that's been recommended by the Minnesota School Board Association. A great chunk of it is just rewording some of the sentences to shift around where school district sits or a meeting sits. But the great change would be under item D under section 5, and that's where it would drop the manual reading of a large number of the policies on an annual basis, and only 2 of them would be required on an annual basis to be reviewed. So we don't have any action on this tonight. Any questions on the policy? Okay. So then we'll move on to item H then, which is information, the FY 2023 revised budget. we'll do our approval at the May meeting. That's enclosure number 10 in our packet. Any questions on that?
So I had said earlier, we'd like to get a work session where we can all dive into this deeply. We'd like to actually do that also the following month with the main budget for next year, the actual budget for next year, so that we can do the exact same thing. We've talked a lot about not having time to dive into these things, and so I think that's a wise thing for us to do.
I would propose the Monday ahead of 2 weeks ahead of our meeting in May. So that date would be, I have to get up a calendar. Our regular board meeting would be the 22nd.
That's fast.
Correct?
Yeah, that's great.
So Monday, May 8th.
I would not be able to be in attendance and maybe in Montana.
I actually would not be able to either.
She's gotta be there.
I'm
Yes.
not gonna be available that night, sorry.
So I hesitate to move it to the Monday later, so what about Monday, May 1st?
Are we doing the regular agenda that day, the new budget that day as well?
No, I think it would just be going over the revised fiscal year budget, wouldn't it, as a board?
I didn't hear what you said, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Are
so
we
it'd
just
be
doing the
renewal.
revised budget, or are we doing the revised and the new budget for next year at the same time?
What would you be ready for that next Monday?
No, that's why I'm asking.
Okay, all right.
I can do the revised on Monday, yes, but
But you could have both ready on the 15th.
What we were talking about is having a second work session. So this first one is just for the revised budget. And then we could do another one in between the
May
May
and
and
June.
June meetings.
Yes, that would work.
I would prefer that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't need her here 24 hours every day. She would do it.
Would the board prefer to do it the week earlier or the 1 week right ahead of the meeting?
The 1 week right ahead of the meeting is the joint band and choir concert.
Oh,
that
that's the
evening.
15th.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah, we should not schedule
right.
it, unless we did it at 5:30 or so in the afternoon.
That would work. This is on the 8th? Or the 15th, I'm sorry, the 15th.
5:30 PM on May 15th. Okay, so we will have a work session on May 15th at 5:30 PM here in the district office. And that will be to go over the revised fiscal year 23 budget.
Todd, if I may,
Yes.
if there are questions that you guys are looking forward to going into that meeting, if you have questions, if you could email them to me ahead of time so that I can be adequately prepared, as this is my first round of revised budget. I would greatly appreciate having the time to research your questions and be able to answer you thoroughly. Thank you.
All right, so that's completed item H. Now we have our two added items. So the first one would be item I, testimony.
Okay, my question was, I was informed that you had done the testimony down at the state.
Mhm.
I was wondering how, or who authorized that?
I didn't ask for authorization. I guess I mentioned it at the last board meeting and I went with Mr. Gleesner and
Because my question too is that is premature, especially when we're going through our facilities committee and.
Right, no, and I understand
justify
that. I think it's, in order for that project to go, they needed to get moving on that. And that was the date that we were given by Representative Erdahl.
So as the board, though, shouldn't you have gotten a yay or a nay from the board to go ahead with that? Given what we are going through with the facilities and the possible referendum and where we are with Nexus coming up with a plan for both schools at this point, just to address the needs at both buildings, that to even go that route is insinuating that that's an option at this point, when we're back at, that's not even an option at this point.
Yeah, no, I think that we've been supportive of the project that Mark's working on, and we don't know what's gonna happen. So that's one option that we've got, and that could be a big way to save money for our building project coming up, if that's the way people decide to go.
So that money is that you were discussing on this deal can go for either one. So it can go
No,
for,
are you saying that the money that we're asking from the state,
yeah.
that's specifically for the Island Hub project? If that
So
were to
what
go.
happens if it doesn't go and we decide on the referendum, we're going to do something with both schools?
Then it just wouldn't go.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it's not
Then it
something
just
we're gonna
wouldn't
be stuck with and go, okay, what do
No.
we do now?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I mean, but we've been supportive of their program since, for a year and a half now. And nobody's had a problem with that since then, so
Well,
I'm on the committee.
I know, but I'm just going by the facility committee. As our group, we didn't even, okay, go ahead and explore that area. We're still exploring with a new plan to come up with both schools at this point, because in the survey that went out with the 400 people said that they kind of put a kibosh on the new stuff. They wanted just to address the needs of the district. So we're gonna try to figure out where the 30 million, we kind of use that for a number, how we can make that work for both buildings.
Mhm.
So as far as I'm concerned, that was premature. And I think that the board should have been able to say, yes, Jim, go ahead and do that, or now is not the time to be doing that. We need to be focusing on this. Because it's alluding to the fact that, we're all about, we want to be transparent this time around. We don't want to have something in the back burner, and it's showing people that there's something being planned on the backside, and that just brings animosity again. So I just wanted to bring
I think
that out.
it shows that we're trying to cover all our bases here. That's, I guess, the way I saw it. I think this, if I'm wrong, I think this falls within my,
Had the facilities
Job description.
committee said, yeah, go ahead and explore that too, I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying, but since we didn't, I just thought that was a little.
Okay.
Maybe, Jim, you'd want to send your testimony out to the board.
no, I can show what
So that they can see what
Sure.
you had sent,
sure, I can share that.
or well, not what you sent, but what you had spoken.
Yeah.
Even though that was a public meeting.
I can do that.
Any other questions around the testimony? Okay. Item J, I have it written in a different spot, follow up on the public forum, so.
So I've mentioned this before also, since I've been on the board for the last couple of years, and as a community member who used to come to the board and with questions and stuff, and I always felt like even when I brought information to the board, I've done handouts before too, that it was like talking to a wall because there was never a response and no one ever got back to you. And I would like to, I think we need to discuss, to do a follow-up when people come to the committee, to give them a reason why they show up. Instead of feeling like, well, I showed up, I expressed my concerns, but no one ever gets back. The board never acknowledges what we've talked about. And I think if we can do a follow-up, whether it's at our work session or, so they know that there was a purpose and we respect that they came forward. I think that's.
I always try to follow up with people if there was a question said or a request. I've got written down here, how are others recognized, what standards do we have to determine who is recognized? So I mean, I do try to get back to people.
And
Like
This-
the chat.
this
chat.
was nice because we actually have something in writing handed to us, and that's not always the case.
That is nice.
Where you have to go back to the recorded meeting to listen again potentially, or what other avenue, but yes, we will be following up and working through that, through the concerns. And then, yeah, yes, we'll put them on, and it may go on an agenda, depending what the resolution is and with the concern and working with the individual or individuals, or it may not, depending what the outcome of those conversations are, working with them.
Because again, like Mr. Benson had brought that up, you know, the chat GTP and now Sue is just bringing forward some information about it too. And so instead of something coming up on the agenda and voting on it, at least we can explore it a little bit more too.
Yep, it gives all of us time to do our due diligence on chat GPT as well. So, any other comments or questions?
I think the follow-up's a great idea. I like it.
And then we'll put the charge too with all of you as board members. You do have ability to suggest items to go on the agendas. And I do my best to make sure items get on, so does Jim, but we need your help too to make sure that things are covered as well.
Yeah, we meet the Monday before the board meeting. But it has been Wednesdays. We decided Monday would work better for Amy's sanity.
Yeah. So, any other commentary, questions along that? Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for as a board, thank you for your input. It's appreciated. So our upcoming dates, we have May 22nd, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the district office is our next regular board meeting. On May 3rd, 2023, we will have a facilities committee meeting at 4 p.m. in the district office. And then a third item is the work session on May 15th at 5:30 p.m. here in the district office to discuss the fiscal year 2023 revised budget. So any other upcoming dates anyone's aware of? Okay. Then with that, we have our second to last item on the agenda, and that would be to adopt a resolution to acknowledge and accept gifts, grants, and bequests. So I will read the resolution. Member Benson introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Whereas Sheehan's Gas Company has generously donated $100 to the Bold Robotics team. Whereas Minnesota Ag in the Classroom has generously donated $242.61 to the 5th grade class for busing to attend Ag Day. Therefore, be it resolved by the Bold School Board to gratefully accept these gifts. The motion for adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member and voted upon being taken thereon. The following voted thereof in favor. Member Johnson.
Yes.
Member Bowen. Member Benson.
Aye.
Member Jacobs.
Aye.
Member Sheehan.
Yes.
And because it's a resolution, the chair is also in favor, and no one is against. So the foregoing resolution was approved this 24th day of April 2023, and it'll be signed by Tracy Buckle, our clerk. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded by members Johnson and Dolan to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned. For those of you who need a document signed, you can come forward to any board member and we'll help you out. Everybody okay?
Disorderly conduct.
Sure. Ryan, how are you tonight?
Thank you.
There you go. You're welcome.
Thank you much.
You're all right. Make sure it's a longer meeting.
Yeah.
Enjoy something.
It's like, yeah.
First time I've ever attended any public meeting.
Yeah, let me just grab my pencil vote.
Turned out rather well for an electronic signature.
I'm going.
When do I use my finger? My fat one or my skinny one?
Well, it depends. You trying to use like a highlighter or you trying to use a ballpoint?
I feel like I've signed a keypad for a purchase of $5,424 in Walmart.
Let's see what I want to